Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Steve Moon of the Steve Moon Group. If you're thinking about selling your home, you've probably got a million things on your mind. One of the biggest questions I get is, hey Steve, what should I fix before putting my house on the market? Today, I'm going to break down the top 5 most important repairs that will help you attract more buyers and get you the best possible price for your home. We're talking about things that are not cosmetic, but more substantial. We'll handle those aesthetic updates on another video. Keep in mind that in Silicon Valley, we typically have inspections done as a part of the disclosure package. So these issues will not come as any surprise. It's simply a matter of if the seller wants to address these so that they don't become points of negotiation for the buyers later. Okay, so let's get started. Number 5 is all about HVAC systems. That's your heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Now, it's easy to overlook this, but it's a big deal for buyers. No one wants to move into a house with an unreliable system, especially now with these extreme weather fluctuations in the Bay Area. Make sure you have a technician come out for a service check pretty regularly. Get your furnace and AC looked at and replace those air filters. It can extend the life of your system and save you from potential issues down the line. Buyers want to know that they can count on the heat and air. I had a seller who was told by the home inspector that the AC was at the end of its life cycle, but he chose not to take any action. Well, we discovered that the AC died when we were in contract and the buyer wanted to have their own inspector look at the AC. The seller ended up having to credit the buyer way more money to close escrow than he had if he had addressed it in the first place. Very costly mistake. Coming in at number 4 is plumbing. Now, I know that plumbing problems aren't the most glamorous to think about, but leaky faucets, clogged drains, and running toilets will definitely grab a buyer's attention, and not in a good way. Again, a home inspector will check all these things carefully. You'll want to fix any visible leaks, make sure that the toilets flush properly, and check under sinks for any signs of existing or past water damage. A little repair now can prevent mold or other types of problems and make sure that your house looks much more appealing. You don't want buyers at open houses to experience these annoying issues. It's going to turn them off and they'll simply move on to the next property. Keep in mind that you have one opportunity to make an impression with your buyer, and you don't want that impression to be negative, especially if the inspector called them out in the first place. Okay, number 3 is electrical repairs. This is critical because electrical problems can be a safety hazard. We're talking about things like faulty wiring, damaged outlets, and any issues with your electrical panel. If you have an old fuse box, that's also a red flag for buyers. Here in Silicon Valley, a majority of our ranch-styled homes were built in the 50s through 60s. So there was a popular company called Zinsco, which made electrical panels in probably the 50s through the 70s. And they must have been pretty cheap because they're popular around here. Well, over time, it became pretty widely known that these were safety hazards. They were known to overheat and cause fires. They obviously don't use these things anymore, but there are a lot of them still out there, and most homeowners would not even know that they have these unless an electrician tells them about these. An interesting fact, 50,000 electrical fires every year. So it's not something to ignore. We don't know how many of these Zinscos can be out there causing these fires. If you've been thinking about upgrading some of these old outlets or switches, now is probably the time before putting it on the market. Also, leave the electrical work to professionals unless you're a highly skilled electrician yourself, and always get permits. You could end up doing a lot more harm than good if you're just tinkering with these things. Now we're getting into some serious stuff. Number 2 is all about home foundations. This is basically the base of your home, and any problem here can be a major concern for any potential buyer. especially since we live here in an earthquake zone. Look for cracks in the foundation, uneven floors, and doors or windows that don't close properly, and water damage near the base of your house. These can all be signs of foundation issues. You might need to bring in a structural engineer to get these things looked at. It's better to deal with these issues up front now rather than try to hide them. You'll know that you have an issue if your kid drops a ball on the floor and that ball always rolls to the same corner of the house. Buyers want to feel confident that the house is structurally sound. Foundation issues called out by an inspector can be red flags for any nervous home buyer and cause them to back out of the sale or simply move on to the next house without such issues, right? And finally, the most important repair to think about before selling your home is the roof. This could be one of the biggest expense on their list, but it's also one of the most critical. Since in Silicon Valley, the large majority of the homes here are composite roofs, and these things typically have a lifespan of about 25 years. So if you know that your roof has not been replaced within that time frame, it's very likely that the inspector is going to call them out. Better to address them now than for that to become an even more expensive negotiation item later. A damage or an end of roof is a turnoff for buyers and can cause issues like leaks, mold, and water damage. If you're able to do so, consider replacing the roof entirely. This can also come with a transferable warranty and make your home much more appealing. It may be sounding a little dramatic, but a roof is something a buyer closely looks at. So there you have it, the top 5 repairs to prioritize before selling your home: HVAC, plumbing, electrical, foundation, and roof. I know all of this can sound like a lot of money, and you may be tempted to just put your house on the market as is. But tackling these issues beforehand can save you a lot of stress, time, and real big money if it can be left on the table. And if the cost is an issue, contact me. We can work something out. Remember, when in doubt, get a pre-inspection report. It can be a great way to identify potential problems before they become a deal breaker or a huge negotiation list for a buyer. You have to understand the changes in the taste of the buyer pool out there. Today's buyers, and especially here in Silicon Valley, are not looking for sweat equity projects. They're looking for turnkey homes that they can move right into after closing. They are not looking for new projects to take on the weekends. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below or reach out. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Silicon Valley real estate tips and advice. See you in the next video.